Hello beer tubers and welcome to another brewery showcase with me, Peter, the master of hoppets, with some more Croatian craft beer courtesy of Dan. So thanks a ton to Dan for the beers. He sent me a lot of beers this time from Croatia, from a few different breweries, but also Pivovara, Medvedgrad, some new beers from them. But we're starting out with something that's not from them. This is from Zmajska Pivovara, which this brewery showcase is about. And apparently this is one of the first craft breweries in Croatia, and he wanted me to try their beers. So he sent me their Pils Craft Lager and their Pozoj IPA in two variations, a can and a bottle. The bottle is the original recipe, the can is a new recipe. But I think we should start out with the Pilsner here. So it says it's a Pilsner beer that is balanced, it's lagered for 40 days, and yeah, it's a crisp, refreshing Pilsner with freshness, balance of freshness, bitterness, and floral hop aromas, and a rich malty character from Slovenian grown hops. And yeah, I can't remember, what did he say this was from? 2000 and something? But he thinks this is one of the first more modern craft breweries in Croatia. So pours a nice clear yellow color, golden yellow. It looks like a lager. Let's check it out. And thanks, of course, to Dan for the beers. Yeah, very light, very clean, very crackery. It's interesting. He said that this really reminded him of a Helles, and I totally agree. It's substantial on the malt backbone, more so than hops. Like Pilsner, usually they can also be malty, but usually the hops are in the forefront in the Pilsner. It varies, of course, from region to region, if it's like South Germany, North Germany, Czech, whatever, but it has like a robust maltiness, almost like there's some lighter Munich malt or something in here. Or I think, actually, no, it's from decoction maybe, because I think it was decoction mast. It smells nice. Let's try it. Cheers. Very clean. Really clean. Really, really, really clean. Like almost industrial clean. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I think it's too clean. Like, it's very light and very easygoing, but there's not a lot of stuff going on. The most interesting thing is like a crackery Munich malt-esque. It might not even be Munich malt. I just imagine it's Munich light because it reminds me of Munich malt. But that's the most interesting thing about this. It's almost like European pale lager, like, to some extent. A little bit of bitterness, slightly peppery, hop character, maybe a hint of citrus, but it's like, that's one of the interesting things with lagers. You want them clean, but I think sometimes you can also get a lager that's so clean that it's too neutral. It's really balanced, and it's done to a T in terms of brewing. There's no off flavors, but because it's so clean and easygoing, I think it gets a little bit boring, to be honest. I've had numerous Helles lagers with a much more like aromatic hop profile compared to this. And also because they say you Pils, you expect something maybe a bit more flavorsome. 4.8%, by the way. I mean, it's not a bad beer at all. I'm just not like really that into it. Like, it's so clean and almost like industrial. In terms of its cleanliness. Like, it's clinically clean, which is like a bit much for my tastes. Not that lager shouldn't be clean, I just want maybe a bit more character. But let's jump on to the IPA. So this is what they're known for. West Coast IPAs. The reason why it was two bottles, I talked about two recipes. So Dan said they, for some reason, changed the recipe in recent batches, and he did a battle with a fresh can and an old can, a bottle. And the bottle was 5 months, and that still won, which was crazy. So the bottle is 7.3, and the can is 6.3. So a whole percent lower. And that could also be, I mean, they look the same, so it could just be like batch variation. That also happens in brewing. And if these guys are really good, they even state that on labels. But yeah, it says here that it has a lot of hops, a lot of aroma hops, citrusy tropical nuances. It's called by the way, Pozoj. And yeah, it's a classic representative, as they say here, of a West Coast style IPA with a massive amount of hops and assertive bitterness, flavors of pineapple, orange. It sounds really nice. It sounds like my cup of tea, and it smells good from here. So let's try the old one first, the bottle version. So slightly hazy, golden yellow color. There's an interesting like film in there. Maybe it's a bit of yeast. No, it might be chill haze. Or the big thing with I don't think it's oxidized actually. Because it's just like, it's very light in color. That's the thing though, with bottles, oxidation is more of a thing than cans. Well, let's check out the aroma. So this reminds me of getting American IPA in Europe when I just got into craft beer. This smells like old IPA. It smells like tea leafy hops. Like, yeah, totally. I was excited about aromas like this in the past, but these days I'm not. It's got some classic sea hop vibes. Maybe there's Columbus or something in here, maybe Chinook. Like really grapefruity, piney, earthy. But then on top of all that, you get like that older hop, like I think it's maybe an oxidation that triggers that black tea, like Earl Grey tea type thing for me. And it only happens in West Coast IPAs, really. Oftentimes with old hazies, it's just like more mellow. Maybe it's something with isomerization of hops, I'm not sure, but it's something I always got on old West Coast beers way back. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like when I get that, it's like, huh, that's nostalgic. And actually, I loved it back in the day. But so it's somewhat nice, but it's also a sign that makes me think like it's not fresh. But let's try it. Cheers. Definitely that tea leaf thing. It's less bitter than I expected. There we go. It builds on the back end. It builds. It's not like intense, but there's definitely some bitterness. Really floral, really grapefruity, piney, old school West Coast for sure. It definitely tastes much better than it smells. Because the tea leafy thing is more of an afterthought on the flavor. It's actually surprising. Like the aroma was like, this smells like it's old IPA, but the flavor is really surprising for like 5 months in the bottle. I mean, this is going to expire this month, which is pretty cool. Like it's actually drinking quite well. Bitterness must be around like around the 60s, 70s territory because it definitely builds as you drink it. But you do feel it's lackluster in its hop complexity. I mean, it's not a fresh beer. But yeah, it's tea leafy, grapefruity, piney, resiny, sticky. Like, it's one of those like old school West Coast IPAs where you really want to drink it chilled because it has like that sticky, resiny, oily hop flavor. And that can be a bit cloying as it warms. But in terms of malt, it's like very light. There's like bready, maybe a slightly sweetish thing, but that could also just be because of sweet hop flavor. But it finishes bitter, quite bitter. It's really old school. It's like old school West Coast IPA. But let's jump over to the reworked batch here. So they look pretty much the same. Exactly the same. Let's check out the aroma. More floral, more fruity, no tea leaf. Much more floral. More citrusy. It smells really similar, but it smells like this was a bit more powerful, oddly enough. This smells a bit more intense, but it smells old on the same time. Let's try it. Cheers. Yeah, more vibrant, more singy. No old hop flavor there. Oh yeah, when you jump over this, that's much better in terms of flavor profile, I think. Just because this has signs of age. It's not like heavily oxidized, but it's got those, like it gets more sticky, more cloying, more sweet, like all these things that happens with age in IPAs. And it's showcasing that a bit more. This is more clean, more vibrant. It's pretty good. I mean, they're not like beers that are having me fired up. Let's say it like that. They're not bad beers, but like I will say I've had beers from many different breweries that I think are much more interesting than these. They almost drink like, who can we compare to from Denmark? I think this actually compares to a little bit like some of the craft brands in supermarkets. To be honest, this one. I'm really not that big of a fan. I think these are a bit more interesting, the IPAs. They're a bit more like, I guess, someone like beers you saw quite a long time ago, but I also think they are a little bit into that like supermarket chain shop type territory. It almost feels a bit like it's like a bit more restrained. Like, it's not exploding out of the can. It doesn't necessarily have to. It's got a lot of nice hop flavor. It sounds like I'm really negative about these beers. They are pretty decent beers. I'm just not as fired up as I hope. But I prefer the can over the bottle, although the bottle seems to have more saturation of hops. Yeah, no, that's the winner. It's starting to like, that's going downhill, but it's like so close to the expiration date, so it's like pretty much not really fair to do a proper review of that. The favorite is the can fresh version of their IPA, that's for sure. The West Coaster. Yeah, what I'd love is just more hop flavor, really. Like more burst of flavor, more intensity. I sound like such a snob. I'm not trying to be one. But in terms of grades, let's see. For the Pils Craft Lager, I mean, it's not half bad. I'd give it like compared to a really fresh, awesome German Pils or Helles, it just doesn't cut it. It's just too clinically tasting and just like too clean and too mild. Like, it's so clean and mild that it's boring, although there's no flaws. So straight 80, like, it's all right. Yeah, how would I score this on Untap? 325 maybe? 3.5 max? So maybe that's even lower. Maybe that's like 78. It's just not doing much for me, especially because it just had an amazing lager before this. So that might also be part of it. For these two, I think we're going to score the old, if I have to score it, around an 80, 82 as well, maybe a little bit higher. And then an 85 for the fresh IPA. It's not a half bad West Coaster, but if you compare to the Medvedgrad, like India Pale lagers, especially the imperialized one, I think that was the Professor, that had much more vibrant, like definable hop flavors. Like the more I drink it, the more like just like generic it becomes. It just seems like the production is bigger and these are more like core range supermarket beers. These kind of beers are needed when you reach a certain size, but yeah, they're all right. But it's probably not something I would bother with again. But still, thanks a ton to Dan for the beers. I gotta be 100% honest. I always try to be, but you know, if you love these beers, that's awesome. Love them. You can love whatever you want and like to drink whatever you want. I'm not here to dictate anything. But yeah, if you guys had either of these beers, let me know what you thought of them. Thanks a ton to Dan for the beers. And as always, remember to comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And I want to say cheers and see you guys in another brewery showcase or beer review. Cheers.